Hey, Jim. It's Red Friday.
That's
How are
right.
you? It is.
Remember, everyone deployed, folks. That's what the red means. That's what the red shirt
means here.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And we're excited that hopefully Harry hasn't jumped on yet, but we're hoping that Jim Pfaff, he's the president of the Conservative Caucus, will be on. We've got lots of questions for Jim, especially what's going on with the Republicans right now in both the House and the Senate. There seems to be some disarray. Speaker Johnson wants to work a 2-day work week. We don't know what's happening, but that's what we're talking about today. So hopefully he does jump on here. We are scheduled for him, and we haven't gotten confirmation that he is not going to be here. So we will start the show. We've got stuff to talk about. Even
we can always talk about something.
Yeah, we could talk about our viewers and Aiken and a whole bunch of other people if we need to. So, they don't mind. They don't mind.
I don't think you and I have ever had a problem talking.
No, we will not have an issue talking about something. But let's go ahead and start this. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we'll go over what's happening on Monday. Big show on Monday, folks. Going to be very interesting. If you think you knew the deep state, think again. We have some people on that are going to fill us in on a lot of details you may not be aware of. But first, Jim, and that's going to be on today's what? Other
live Friday special edition. The Patriots Prayer Network.
Yeah,
2 guys, 1 coup.
Be right back.
Lost in the crowd, truth hides deep, burying the noise. Left hand deals lies, can't stifle the choice. Back rage, flames in the night. No more chains, break free from the fright. Eyes clear now, vision in the dark. We stand up, never bow to the mark. We are the storm, we are the fight. 2 guys, 1 coup, bringing light. No more lies, no more games. Stand tall in truth, break the chains. They spit and scream, push buttons in the dark. Yet we rise, never crumble in the park. Paint our faces with colors bright. March ahead in the dead of night. Shattered dreams won't silence us now. Left and right mix poison in the vow. But we see through, we feel the beat.
Okay, he joined.
Yep. Hey, folks. Thank you again for joining us. A special Friday edition of the 2 guys, 1 coup. Let's bring Jim up. We've got Jim here, Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus. He's had an extensive political career. Why is he so small, Jim?
I don't get it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a new format and thing we've been using.
Yeah,
so
it's not working out too well.
Not working out too well. So let's try something else, Jim.
Okay.
Now,
hey, great to see you, though.
There's 2 Jims here. So I'm Dale. That's Jim. You're Jim. I'm just going to call you Smart Jim because if you knew the other one,
I'll take it. People don't give me that.
That's what I can do right there.
Hey, that's all right. That looks way better. I'm going to switch you guys around, and I'm going to put you in the middle, Mr. Pfaff. Thank you so much. It's your first time on the show, so welcome.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. An extensive background. Go over it a little bit. His career stretches over 3 decades. Served as chief of staff for the Colorado House Republican Caucus. Also served as founder of executive director of Americans for Prosperity in Colorado. Chief of staff for 2 congressmen. Graduated from the Webb School in Tennessee, but he studied English, and this is important, English and political science at Indiana University. Well, that'll excite the other Jim. He's a Hoosier. So
I am a Hoosier.
Are you a Hoosier as well?
Yep, I am a Hoosier.
He is a Hoosier.
I always tell people I'm from Indianapolis. We run a little race there you might have heard of.
I'm from Fort Wayne. I live in Fort Wayne.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
know
where you're
Fort
from
Wayne
originally,
well.
Jim? Is
Yeah,
Indianapolis?
I was born and raised in Indianapolis.
Okay.
I have a home in Bloomington, Indiana right now.
Oh, nice.
But I did live in Colorado for many of this century's years. I had gone there to work for Focus on the Family as a national representative for family policy councils. I worked for Dr. Dobson there and ran the marriage amendment in Colorado in 2006 and was on the radio in Denver for 4 years as well, too. So Colorado's my adopted home.
Yep.
Real quick.
Still, I mean, like, you know, Colorado is a little, you know.
Have a question, Jim.
Yeah.
We need more than 3 players on the basketball team. So can you help us out a little bit?
Listen, I love basketball so much, and baseball are my favorite sport, soccer as well too. But you know, it's really sad, the demise of Mike Woodson. I was very hopeful. I mean, he's such a legacy part of the Indiana program. I remember as a kid listening, and then you could only listen on radio, listening to the final game in 1976 when Indiana, the last undefeated NCAA team in history, and a huge Bobby Knight fan. I just and remain to that to this day. A lot of people don't know, and by the way, Donald Trump in part is president because of Bobby Knight. You know, he's likely going to win the 2016 primary, but there was a chance for Ted Cruz if he could pull off Indiana. And I love Ted Cruz, but he really embarrassed himself that year. He called it a basketball hoop. First of all, no reason calls it a basketball hoop. It's a basketball goal. And then Bobby Knight came out and endorsed Donald Trump, and that sealed the deal. You know,
True.
But, you know, it's really sad what happened with Mike Woodson. I was hopeful he could be the answer. They shouldn't have gotten rid of Bobby Knight to begin with. That was just, and Miles Brand who was president of Indiana University at the time, screwed up the NCAA after he left Indiana. I mean, the guy was just a hack job. And Bobby Knight wasn't perfect. Listen,
of course not.
Even at the time, I was getting a little bit frustrated with the way he was dealing with that situation at the time, but he was under a lot of pressure. He went to Texas Tech and had a fantastic run there. So big basketball fan. If you're and you know this, Jim, if you watch the movie Hoosiers and you're our age and you experience Indiana high school basketball, even though that was a bit more 1950s centric, it still had so many touch points from Indiana basketball years from people like us growing up. So,
and one of the greatest basketball movies ever made, if not the greatest basketball movie.
It may be the greatest sports movie ever made. It competes. There's no doubt.
I'm not the only one. See,
I know. This is so good. I knew it. I knew when I read this thing. I'm like, I'm like,
hang out with fellow Hoosiers. And if you're ever in Indiana, down southern Indiana, definitely come by my house. We're right on Lake Monroe.
Nice.
Careful.
As the crow flies, less than a quarter mile from John Mellencamp's house.
Oh, wow.
Careful. You might have somebody knocking on your doors. Hey,
he's got a niece that goes to IU, and they go down there quite often.
I think this evening I'm based here in DC most of the time, but this afternoon I'm driving back to Indiana. We're going to be there for a few weeks around Easter to be with family. And I'm just looking forward to getting back to my 1 acre lot home, surrounded by woods, just a little bit off of Lake Monroe. It's just it's the most beautiful area of the state, and I'm have such pleasure having a home there.
A lot of storms ripped through that whole area the other day.
Oh yeah.
So I'm glad
it has been bad. Interestingly, I think my home was okay because to the 2 previous storms, we have Duke Energy down there. I get texts when our power goes out because Duke gives that announcement. I didn't get one from this last storm, and it seemed a lot worse than the other one.
Sure did. You know? Yeah, it sure did.
Got a little bit, but not much.
It's crazy. I live in the panhandle of Florida, and it's storms are obviously they're quite a thing down here as well. You know,
we have one of our regulars here, Jim. I got to show this to you. He has a message for you.
Welcome, Smart Jim. I told you.
Thanks, Aiken. Always good count on you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I guess we can so much better now. People cut me out all the time. I'm just glad to be thought of as smart by someone.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you're
yeah. How does that work for you? Do people know you, recognize you? You're walking through DC, or are you getting the whole, Nazi and?
I do amongst DCites, having worked on the Hill for 8 years as a chief of staff. I got a lot of enemies and a lot of friends.
Yeah.
My approach has always been not to be an a-hole to people, but not to care if people think I'm one.
Correct.
My intent is not to beat people up, but I don't give ground. And people know that. And I had some effective work. So when I first came to the Hill in 2010, the end of 2010, to work for Tim Huelskamp, former congressman from Kansas, and a fantastic MAGA now, but he came in on the Tea Party wave. He's one of the 4 guys that were kicked off his committees by John Boehner back in 2011 because he wasn't going to give in. He's a solid patriot, one of my closest friends in the world. But when I went up there, Tim was intent, and he and I were talking, and we're like, listen, we got this Tea Party wave. We got to keep it somehow. And so he really worked members. And of course, there were some others that were willing to with him to make sure that they kind of stayed in line. I went out and sought to organize fellow chiefs of staff in all of these 62. Think about that wave. There were 62 new members of Congress, and I was able to put together private meetings. No one knew this was going on, or at least except on the Hill, maybe, because I'd get some room in the Cannon House office building or wherever I could get it. And I would gather up between 40 and 60 chiefs of staff as well, just in those early days. I worked them really hard. Tim worked the members hard. And a lot of what we were doing, I'm not taking credit for it, and Tim wouldn't take full credit for it either, but a lot of what we did helped lay the foundation for what became the House Freedom Caucus, because there was a group of members that Tim really brought together. And the reason I gathered the chiefs was to help support Tim's effort with them, just to communicate with them and encourage them to encourage their members. And that group of people met privately quite often, and I was the only Capitol Hill staffer in the room because I put all the meetings together, and it eventually became the House Freedom Caucus. So this was a heady times, frankly, because that was the first wave of reform that kind of set the stage, and we didn't make a lot of progress. Tim was instrumental in taking down John Boehner's what was called Plan B. And that was John Boehner's attempt to raise taxes on the top 10% as the Bush tax cuts were expiring. And Tim was like, what are you talking about? You're going to kill our brand by raising taxes. How could you do that? So he had put it on the floor. We went and talked with all of the organizations, the conservative organizations, in a private meeting. And we told them what was going on. Tim leading it mostly, obviously. And so we put together a press conference that afternoon on what's called the Triangle. It's right outside, right down below the House steps that go out of the Capitol that you often see people speaking at. And we put that press conference together with Brent Bozell, with Salem Media's folks. Mike Needham was running the Heritage for Action at the time, Club for Growth. We had all these organizations there. They had talked to all their people that morning. And while we were doing that press conference, John Boehner had to pull Plan B off the floor that was going to pass because it freaked out all the Republican members of Congress. We caught him blindsided. It was Tim's leadership that did this. He doesn't get enough credit for this. And he was very effective at taking on which was really rancid GOP leadership. And in part, I tell this story so people understand some of my background, but I also want to emphasize the fact that, there is a real problem with the Trump agenda, and that's Republicans in Congress.
Okay,
that's
good. I'm glad you said that. Yeah,
it's the weak link right now. And there are some fantastic members there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say they're all bad. Just the vast majority of them are not willing to move away from cowardly efforts and focus in on this massive win we had in November. You know, so Rand Paul put an amendment on the floor of the CR in the Senate to cut $1.5 trillion from spending, and 29 Republican senators voted against it. Now, I don't know after this election result how you don't vote for that.
I know.
I agree.
It's crazy.
We've been
this
frustrated
is the challenge
for a
we have
while.
as Republican members.
It is. We always seem to just step on our own feet. We trip ourselves. We never feel. I guess the feeling is we never feel united. Say what you want about the Democrats, and there's a lot to say about them. That's for sure. There's nothing really nice to say about them, but say what you want about them. They seem to go lockstep, into voting, into supporting, despite the AOCs and the Crockett's versus, the Schumers and all that. They will always tend to vote together and stay together one way or another, where it seems Republicans, and I don't have a problem with, for instance, Massey not wanting to vote for the CR. I mean, that guy's as MAGA and as Trump supporting as anybody can get.
By the way, I know this as well as anyone. I was his chief of staff for 2 years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He is fantastic. We need 200 Thomas Masseys.
And then look at the backlash he got within the own party and supporters and MAGA supporters and all that. It's like, well, wait a second. We're allowed to have these disagree. I'm allowed to not, be 100% on this for this reason. I just want cuts. I know it's a freeze. We want cuts, that kind of thing. And he just took a backlashing for it. And it's like, stop it. Everybody. Right. It's like Rand Paul to me yesterday, going on the floor, talking about the tariffs and going on that. It's noble. It's fine. I don't think it's the time and place for it. Just, so it always, to the outsider, and we are, looks like, why is all this infighting going on within the Republican Party, the GOP?
I think, and when Rand saying what he said on the floor, but my support for the tariff program, and I do support what Trump's doing with this, is not because of tariffs. It's because of what this does to negotiate a restructuring of this old international order of trade deals that began right after World War II in what I would say is a roughly noble effort to say, listen, other countries, you may do your tariffs, and we're the big economic behemoth. We weren't harmed physically by World War II. I mean, we were financially harmed. We spent a lot of money, but it wasn't overwhelming for us. We did it in debt. We were able to pay down that debt after about 3 decades. But the key factor was we had a massive economy. It gave these other economies an opportunity to do business easily here in the United States. That may, you can argue about how good a policy or wise a policy that was, but that's what we did. That order doesn't exist anymore. Right. We needed to reset this. So I support that. That being said, I don't sit around and wring my hands over Rand Paul having that kind of a disagreement. That's not where our problem is. Okay. Our problem is with the moderate members, and particularly all the House appropriations and even Senate appropriations members, who are the core of this infighting problem that we have. Now, to their credit, John Thune was able to get all of these nominees through. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and surprised me. I did, even though I diverged with Thomas on this, the CR, I felt was the right approach to take. It was substantively quite different than other CRs that I would never have voted for if I remember Congress before. If, again, there are a lot of ifs here. If we get this rescission package passed in the House, that will literally draw back spending, and you only need a majority vote in the Senate to get that done. And if this reconciliation bill later in the year keeps the Trump tax cuts going, does the no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, and then some of these other things that we're looking to come in there. If those happen, that CR was a fantastic deal. I can guarantee you, if those things don't happen, the House Freedom Caucus is not going to support another CR. It's not going to happen. But see, that's how you work through this. It's not the conservative wing mostly that causes the problems in the GOP caucus. It's the moderate, deep state, frankly, members of the GOP caucus.
That makes sense.
To Democrats, I want to balance it by saying this: Democrats are our problem in this country right now. They are leftist. They hate the Constitution. You saw, I can't remember his name, but there's this MSNBC commentator, a big black dude, and he colors his hair.
I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, and he was saying we need to chuck the Constitution and go do what South Africa's doing. And I'm like, one, you hate white people. It's obvious. That's just
obvious.
crazy. Even Van Jones isn't quite that bad, and he's horrible. But you're also supporting a regime that presently is killing white people and stealing their lands. Are you freaking kidding me? And they are our problem. Ultimately, we have to fight against that. But Republicans have to stop being weak-kneed and cowardly, and they need to counter this. Donald Trump and the way he does politics is much closer to what Republicans need to be doing. They haven't made the transition yet.
Of course, that was clear on election day. You know, that's what we voted for. We voted for this.
You're
not wrong.
We're trying to figure out, you know, when and there are people that are leaning towards it, and we got to see where the tariffs go. Right? I know the stock market is not looking too good and all that stuff. But
you're not printing the money anymore,
right? It changes, but the thing I go by is when you look at how unfair when our imports into their countries 100% or 80%, and all we're asking for is a 10% or a fair share on it. So when I'm sure you guys talk about this a lot, and you review this a lot, you kind of help everybody understand that, you know, this is going to take a little bit. I mean, hope not till the next midterms, but it's going to take a little bit. But this has to be done to like you just said, reset things. It has to be reset. Is that what you're saying on these things?
Well, and we're already seeing a potential for this. So it became news yesterday that Javier Milei is negotiating a reciprocal zero tariff between Argentina and the United States. That's a great first shot because it helps emphasize this limited government approach that we need. And by the way, in comparison, I'm more of a Milei guy than even a Trump guy, although I'm fully on board for Donald Trump. I love him. But I come from that perspective. He is an anarcho-capitalist, he says. I say, I'm not an anarcho-capitalist, but I aspire to be. Like, you know, I really believe government is almost always causes the worst problems in society. There are always problems, but they're the worst. But anyway, if that gets negotiated and announced, that's a shot across the bow to everybody else. Of course, you had Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, out saying, well, if they would just reduce theirs and we'll reduce ours. Okay, we'll go talk to your prime minister and let's have at it. Let's have zero tariffs between the U.S. and Canada. That's going to be beneficial for everybody. And then you've got Israel talking about this too. If you see these dominoes start to fall, then the gambit will have been worth it. And because you're going to see Europe come in line, you're going to see Asian countries starting to come in line. I would have Donald Trump keep a strong barrier to China because I don't think we should be giving them any special circumstances. Being a communist country, no matter what little tiny freedoms they provide, they're limited and can be taken away at any time. But anyway, we need to honor countries that have relative freedom, and we need to get all this down to zero or very low tariffs, and without the mishmash of industries being considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's absolutely spot on the response. That's what we believe as well. We're willing to take a little bit of pain for progress. At that point, I think we all need to.
You remember there was this discussion of irrational exuberance in one of the decades ago stock market uprushes. It happened in the 90s in the post 87 crash. Well, this is irrational anger at things. I do not believe that the drop that happened is and people that trade in stocks are smart people, and even many of them being Democrats and supporting Democrat Party, they still have to meet the bottom line. They're smart people, and they usually make good projections. What the stock market is doing is a decent projection of what's happening. By the way, it's also a decent evidence of the way that the Fed rigs the system as well.
Correct.
So there's this aspect
Bingo.
too.
Yes.
But this was an irrational drop. I mean, they might have been a drop, and there is some risk here. But I think it was a bit irrational. It started to pop back up at the end of the day. I think if we can, as you were just saying, if we can get these dominoes to fall, then I think we're going to see that stock market go up quickly. If Argentina announces it, you're going to see a stock market run up. It's not going to go all the way up, but you see a few other dominoes fall, and suddenly it's going to be evident.
Yep, exactly. And job numbers came out higher than expected, of course.
Not lower than expected.
Yeah,
higher.
Higher than expected. 120,000 higher or something like that than expected. That has nothing to do with anything. I'm adding to the point that these policies are going to work. This is going to be a great economy. He did it once. He knows what he's doing. And if anybody thinks that Donald Trump isn't 10 steps ahead in his thought process, they don't know Donald Trump, you know? My question is then, if we talked about it a little bit earlier, if these things get passed and all that, the frustration also, and I just want to clear it, I want to get your opinion on this, is that, well, maybe the House of Representatives should work 5 days a week, or maybe they should, stop recessing it on Tuesday, or so the general consensus is what is getting done? Why is nothing getting done? There's the other aspect of why haven't we seen anybody in cuffs and perp walk yet? That's a whole nother story we can get into, but we feel that we voted for this, I mean, it was a dominating win in November. We've got the House, we've got the Senate, we've got the presidency. What's it going to take to get these things done? And I understand it takes time to get these. I mean, it's been 70 days. I mean, it's not, 70 days so hang tight, Democrats. You got a long way to go. But when will it get done? And what's your thought process about, the early recess and Speaker Johnson and everything that's going on in the House of Representatives right now?
Well, what happened this week in Congress, where both sides of the issue that was going on, this proxy voting issue,
yes, correct.
Picked up their balls and went home. Johnson did, Anna Paulina Luna did.
Yes.
By the way, proxy voting is unconstitutional. And I just want to explain this for people, because there are a lot of people digging on others who are saying, no, Anna Paulina Luna is wrong. And it's really odd to hear that, because what this proxy voting addresses is the constitutional statement that Congress must have a quorum to do business. Well, how do you form a quorum? The way you form a quorum, and just keep in mind, this is Robert's Rules of Order stuff, just basic 101. How do you run a legislative body? Right. The way you get a quorum is by having people give verbal assent that they happen to be there. And then if you have enough for a quorum, then you can do business. You have to physically be there. They did not envision anything like proxy voting, nor is there any explicit language that allows that. Anna Paulina Luna is wrong on this. My friend Nick Sorter's getting beat up for this because he's made this case. He and I were just talking on the phone last night. There's no reason to be beaten up on that point. And I get it. Anna Paulina Luna is a really good vote. And I don't want to, demean what has been an excellent voting record, but get off of that. But here's on the other side. So because of the concern on the proxy voting end of things, you've got Mike Johnson throwing that discharged bill into the hopper with other bills that need to pass.
Correct.
Okay, well, that is a legislative move that he has the ability to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how wise that was.
Correct.
I'd like to see an up and down vote on that issue, but and there's a risk that it comes in and gets passed. Yeah, and that's a problem. But now that you made that legislative move and you don't continue your work this week by taking those two bills, sending them back into the Rules Committee, and then bringing them back out on the floor for their own votes,
Yeah.
Why would you not do that?
Yes,
he has
correct.
the ability to do that. He can even keep everyone in over the weekend to get those 2 bills done.
Yes,
if
he
it
could.
takes that, and it does take a little bit of effort to get things back into the rules committee. It takes time. I get it. You have to have a rules debate, debate on the rules committee and a vote out. And, that takes a little time. I get that, but make them pay for it.
Yes. Correct.
And so that's a weak need response. I mean, this is the dysfunction that's in Congress is Republicans always make bad decisions when they're in leadership.
Yes.
Or they make corrupt decisions, as I would say Paul Ryan did. And in many cases, John Boehner did as well. And we need to get away from that mindset and get into the winning mindset, which is what are the things we can do to win? He also could have delayed the vote somewhat, I believe, on the proxy voting thing to next week to get these other things done. There's a lot he has authority and power to do that he just didn't do.
Why though? I mean, what do you think why was his mindset behind it?
Because he's relatively weak. I mean, the only strengthening you have with him right now is because he owes his speakership to Donald Trump, who made the phone call to I think it was Tim Burchett and Keith Self to get them to come over and bring it in. You remember that speaker vote was held up for about 2 hours, and Donald Trump was working the phones trying to get the extra votes across, which he was successful to do. That gives him some strength, but not all strength, because the executive branch can't run the legislative branch, and you've got to have Mike Johnson himself step up to the plate, and he's proven he's not the guy to do that. And it's very frustrating.
Who would be your choice?
Well, I'd have Jim Jordan be speaker, to be honest.
Okay, good.
And I know Jim, and I worked very closely with Jim when I was working on Capitol Hill. I'm a big hero. I would be critical of him in certain areas as speaker. But the one thing I have confidence in Jim Jordan is that he actually would take decisions. Like the things that I would be disagreeing with him on would be him struggling to figure out a way through. But I don't think you'd have had this mix up happening this week if Jim Jordan were speaker. I don't see that happening. He's a decisive guy. He knows what he can and can't do. He's a very intelligent man, principled man. Of the group that's out there and available, he's the guy. I wouldn't have Steve Scalise or Tom Emmer as speaker. They might even be better than Johnson. So I guess by default, that's a possibility. But Jim Jordan is a fantastic man whom I have a lot of respect for. And I think our movement does too. He's been solid for Donald Trump. And he would know exactly how to move these things across because he would work it really hard.
Yeah, it's really frustrating from the standpoint because we did great win in November. I mean, it was convincing. We got control of the House. We get, because, we have, it's tight, but we still have it. We gained some senators. And it's like we had a chance because the Democrats are just blowing up. I mean, they're blowing up. And we have a chance, in my opinion, to get things done, to make things permanent, to bad choice of words, to govern for the next 8 years after President Trump, whether it's JD Vance or somebody else, it's that carry on, because we need somebody to carry that torch after President Trump is there. So speaking of carrying the torch, my question to you is, being in the Conservative Caucus, who would be the torch bearer after President Trump? Is it Vance, or is there somebody else out there that we think we need to follow?
Well, my current belief is that it's JD Vance. I'm not one of these anti-Ron DeSantis people. I think he has a possibility. What he proved, though, is at least the last year is that he doesn't know how to run a campaign.
Correct.
So and he had opportunities to at least make Ted Cruz sized gains, relating that to Ted Cruz's 2016 run. And he didn't even get anywhere close. But other than that, I really don't see who that is. And I'm also of the opinion, the reason I'm leaning in the Vance direction, whom whether he would be the guy I'd choose or not, is a fantastic human being and someone I have a deep trust for.
Absolutely.
And his skills and capability as an insider, in his skills and capabilities, and in his stand for truth. Even though I have a lot of respect want to keep it open. I think we need the next generation, his millennial generation. I think if we can, we need that kind of a leader.
I agree with that too.
Ron DeSantis is on the top end of that age range, and he's older than JD, so he could fit that bill too. But I have to tell you this: of the potential people out there, there are a lot of good people in that are Republicans.
Correct. Right.
But of the potential people who would ever be able to kind of get a hook into being relevant on the national stage, the only two people I see capable of that are Ron DeSantis and JD Vance.
Okay.
And even though I like Vivek Ramaswamy in some ways, I just don't, let him be governor and let's see if he can even win governorship in Ohio. And he may be able to.
Yeah.
But he doesn't yet have the political chops that JD and Ron DeSantis do. He has some political skills, but they're mostly rhetorical. You need to be able to plan what you're doing from where you're of the things you're not talking about, how you administrate this, how you organize it, hiring the right people.
Correct.
He hasn't shown that he can do that yet, but he's a fantastic. He's fantastic on the trail.
Yeah, he is.
I think he believes in the American dream. I think he's wrong from time to time in ways that frustrate me a little bit, but I'll give him credit points for the fact that he is actually trying to find the constitutional principle behind things. And so there are going to be opportunities, and of course we're going to see from the House and eventually from the Senate after 2026, there are going to be new names emerge as well. So, but those are the top two right now: DeSantis and Vance. We got a lot more. Can you got time? Because we got to go to we got to go to a commercial break here real quick, and then we'll be back. I've got questions. I want to get into who maybe you think the Democrat nominee will be. And what the conservative, I'm telling you, the conservative caucus is doing to, what they're doing to help with midterms and maybe where some seats are vulnerable and where you think we're pretty solid at. So we'll get into all that right after this. We'll be right back.
Grit is defined as firmness of character, unyielding courage in the face of hardship or danger. At Grit Gear Apparel, we honor all military, police, fire, public service, and patriotic Americans, both men and women regardless of color, creed, or religion. Our brand represents the love and freedom for our country, the heroism of all our men and women, and the principles of what this wonderful country was built on. Our goal is to regenerate the sense of patriotism and to spark the American pride within us, to stand together in the toughest times and become victorious, to preserve all our freedoms, to honor our flag, and to respect the men and women who have fought and died for us to have these freedoms. Wear our brand with pride, with a sense of patriotism, and as a statement for the love of our country. Whether you're military, public official, or civilian, our brand is for you. Together we stand as Americans.
Yeah, we do and should stand as Americans. That's gritgearapparel.com and lockandloadcoffee.com. Use coupon code 2guys. You get 10% off your entire order. That even goes for Smart Jim here.
I am honored.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm telling you, it's,
when you're compared smarter, Jim, than me, it's an honor.
I did set the bar low, but you are much.
Well, hey, we're both from Indiana, so I guess there's that.
That's right.
Yeah, there's that.
We are in each part somewhere.
Two great American gyms right here. So, let's get it. I want to talk a little bit about the Democrats and from the Conservative Caucus's point of view. Who you think is gonna? Who do you think they're going to run? And do they have a snowball's chance in hell? And I mean that in free and fair elections. Do they have a snowball's chance in hell with their policies that they preach out there?
So I actually I'm a bit concerned to the extent that we need a Republican nominee that's going to at least go better than halfway on the style and focus that Donald Trump had as a candidate.
His name's not on the ballot. What does that do to the Republican Party?
That's exactly right. It's a big issue. So again, I've made my case for the fact that I think JD can potentially fill that. I even think to a certain degree Ron DeSantis can, but I just, after his 2024 performance, I'm
it was not
questioning
good.
it. He's been a fantastic governor, by the way. And again,
Amazing.
I know a lot of our MAGA people are all upset with him, and I don't hold that same problem.
No,
But
me neither.
I just, that's a key factor. So yes, I do think a Democrat potentially has a chance. Now, that said, I think it's rough because their whole party is screwed up so badly.
It sure is.
So let's make that evaluation again after 2026 and see what happens there. And I know we're going to get to that in a minute.
We are.
The Democrat side, I'd say Gavin Newsom is definitely going to be in play there. He's clearly attempting to set himself up for that by trying to sound more moderate, even though he's a radical nut
I
job.
know what.
But even Ron DeSantis destroyed him in that mini debate they had last year. And beyond that, I just don't see anyone else. Like if Bernie Sanders tried to do it again, he's way too old. If AOC tried to do it, no one's going to take her seriously.
No.
She'll get a little bit of a movement. She'll get some energy, but you'd have to have that election stolen to give it to her.
You would.
And she's an idiot anyway. Jasmine Crockett. I mean, who are the people? There's just no one there. And
what about Mark Kelly? I think they're pushing Mark Kelly.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. The problem is Mark Kelly looks stupid.
He does.
Yeah,
This is
especially
a
now.
Tesla thing. Like,
I know.
he's counter to, well, he's a hypocrite.
Yes.
Like, he should have just said, listen, I'm pissed off at Elon Musk, but I'm keeping my Tesla because I believe in the environment, to be consistent.
Or buy from a competitor's electric. At least do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That he buys a big SUV that a lot of Americans
the GOP,
can't afford. A lot of Americans can't afford.
You mentioned earlier about just a quick anecdote here. You remember you mentioned about me working in the Colorado House of Representatives. So Jared Polis was governor, and I know Jared, and I can text him anytime, and I don't agree with him on anything, but we're cordial. I always tell him I was outspent 6-1 in the marriage amendment effort in 2006. He helped fund that. He's a very wealthy guy. And I always told him I kicked your butt, and he'll laugh. Anyway, so I have a big Ford F-250 and it's a diesel. And so I would park around the Capitol there. And I remember I'm pulling out one day and I see him coming down the stairs, leaving the Capitol. And I yelled out the window to him and he laughed, but I said, how you like my climate denier vehicle? Right. So that's what Mark Kelly got.
That's what he got.
His hypocrisy is not going to carry well for him. He's a smart guy, but he's not a great communicator by any stretch of the imagination. Like if you compare him to Gavin Newsom, just in raw chops, Gavin Newsom is clearly a much better or more capable communicator than Mark Kelly ever was. I think that they're in a mess. They're at 21% approval rating right now.
I know.
Yeah, right.
40% of Democrats of that 20%.
That's insane.
It is insane. So they've got an uphill battle. The only thing that can save them is a good showing in 2026. And I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that. So
that's a good segue into this. And before we get into that, it is really a sign of the party when John Fetterman is really the most reasonable out of all.
Remember, he wants to get reelected too.
I know he does. Yeah, of course. So of course.
And Pennsylvania is not looking good for Democrats, or at least not as solid for Democrats as it used to be. We've already proven that there's a turnout model that can work in a presidential year. We're going to have to prove it next year, next year. Yeah. But he's read the writing on the wall on this.
Yeah. Republicans tend to it's like it seems if Trump's name's not on the ballot, it's like we just don't go vote. We don't go. I mean, to me, 2022 was a clear example of that. The big red wave, right? That didn't occur to what we thought the extent of it would be, right? Yeah. That's a concern again for all of us here in 2026. How do we combat that? And what do you think? How do you think that's going to play out? We're going to gain House seats? Are we going to lose Senate seats?
Unless there's some court order in Wisconsin now.
I know that
changes the Wisconsin seats, and they're going to have to. That's a heavy lift because it's a decennial decision, and every 10-year decision. Yeah. But let's say that they do something screwy and do that, then I might be a little bit more worried. But I do believe that they can at least maintain stasis. Okay. And if Trump's policies start to kick in mid next year,
Yeah.
then I think that they're going to gain seats. I think the map looks, and I'll talk the details of the map in a minute in the Senate side, but it looks really bad for Democrats. It's not in their favor. But back to the 2026 issue in general for the House. Remember, Ronald Reagan, he was able to pass tax cuts because he had a Republican Senate for 2 years, and you still had blue dog Democrats at the time, right?
You did. Mm-hmm.
That helped. He started to reduce regulations. That helped, but that takes a long time to kick in. And the Reagan economic boom was more about reductions in regulation than it was the tax cuts, although the tax cuts did help clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But and you had Paul Volcker at the time as Federal Reserve Chairman. And if you're going to do the Federal Reserve right in a bad situation, then you do it the way Paul Volcker did.
Yeah.
But what does that take? He jacked up interest rates almost to 20%. He reduced the money supply. And it was necessary to clean up all the excesses of the Fed through the 1970s. And he fixed that. So you had a horrible economy for 2.5, at least almost 3 years of Reagan's first term. Then 1984 is coming around, and the economy didn't start to break till mid-year 1984. And so by the time he did that famous Morning in America commercial, it landed perfectly because everyone said, who was upset with him before, he was bad in the polls. That's how he came to a 49-state win in 1984 when Mondale was talking about raising taxes. So that is potentially what could maybe happen in 2026 because the economy may be able to turn around for reasons I stated earlier. If that happens, then you're going to have a decent showing in 2026, maybe away, but that's a bit pushing it. But to the Senate, I'm just looking at some of these just going down the list. John Ossoff can lose in Atlanta. Okay. Or in Georgia. He's greatly at risk. You've got Gary Peters maybe in Michigan, and right now it's kind of a toss-up state in polls. So that's a possibility. Tom Tillis is at risk in North Carolina because the MAGA base just doesn't like him.
Correct.
There is going to be a primary there, so we'll see how that plays out. But that goes in Democrat favor, and and then the John Cornyn situation. What's going to happen with that? I think he's going to be primaried as well in Texas. So those are kind of the ones at play right now. I'm just looking through real quick to see if I see any others, but I think that's pretty much it. Susan Collins has got to win and maintain it. And as much as I dislike her, I don't know that there's any credible primary candidate there. So those are, but of all the states that they say are up in the air, or that 270 to win says is up in the air. Alaska, which I think is bull. Dan Sullivan's going to win that. Florida, nah, it's too solid. Joni Ernst in Iowa, no, she's going to win that. Iowa's turned. Roger Marshall in Kansas, no way. And I'm no fan of Roger Marshall because he took Tim Huelskamp out in the primary. So, but he's been pretty conservative and fairly good. Minnesota, nah. They say that's up in the air. Montana, Steve Daines, no. I mean, we proved with the Tester loss that's a shift that I think will be there. It was a presidential year, so it's a concern, but I still think he's going to pull it out. New Hampshire is a possibility, by the way. I forgot to mention it. Sununu's son, Chris Sununu, may run. Chris is coming back MAGA after being a bit TDS over time. You may see an endorsement there, and he's actually very popular. He could pull out New Hampshire. New Mexico, not really, but maybe. Ohio's not. They have that at toss-up. No way. The Lindsey Graham situation is going to be interesting to see. But it's a hold. It's going Republican, and then again John Cornyn. So there's really the map doesn't look opportunistic for Democrat pickups. There may be one opportunity for a pickup, and they do have a potential loss in John Ossoff, which actually I predict will happen.
So in your opinion, what would be the final in your opinion after midterms? What is it? Is 53 or are we going to be at 52? Where
at
are you
worst
thinking?
stasis? The 54 will stay. At
Good.
best, in my opinion, 55. I think that really that Ossoff, in my opinion, at this stage, is the only real pickup opportunity. And
no pickups for the
no,
Democrats.
it could be 56 because also Sununu could win in New Hampshire, and that's a very real possibility if he doesn't.
56 is great.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be real helpful.
56 would be great. Who's running? Who's going to take Mitch McConnell's spot? And,
I don't know, and I can guarantee it's not going to be Thomas unless God in heaven comes down in a real vision and tells him directly to do it. I'm not seeing that happen.
Okay.
You're likely to see an Andy Barr type person.
Okay. All right.
I can't remember his name, but who is the attorney general of that state?
Last name starts with a C, and it just left me too. Yeah, he's a possibility, but he's shown himself to be a weak candidate, honestly.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
All
right. How does the Conservative Caucus? How do you decide? Yep, we're going to endorse this candidate. We're not going to. What's the criteria for that? Honestly, from the Conservative Caucus's point of view.
Sure. So we operate as a 501c4. It allows us, if we raise the money to do it and we keep the balance of, it's like, I think we have to keep 50%, no more than 50% doing any kind of independent expenditures. We did $8 million of pro-Trump independent expenditures this last cycle. Okay. So we played a fairly significant role of organizations. We weren't like the biggest, like Elon eclipsed us obviously by far. Yeah. But we were up in, my best guess is we had the top 10 of independent expenditure efforts on. So we would operate as an independent expenditure approach to these candidates. We are going to ask for that money. The decision we're going to make is we're looking for MAGA people. Yes. We're looking for people who can truly carry the Trump agenda.
Yes.
So if someone hasn't been consistently MAGA, we're not likely to get involved.
Yeah.
Unless it's just such a sweet opportunity and we really believe we could make a difference, we might consider that. Okay. Our goal, and we will take a look at primaries, by the way, and this is going to happen a lot in the House end of things, and there are a whole bunch of seats to consider there because we need some upgrades. We clearly need upgrades. I was fortunate as a chief of staff on Capitol Hill to work with two real heroes. Yes. Tim Huelskamp and Thomas Massey. And that's if anyone wants to know what we're going to be looking at, it's going to be that type of people.
Okay. Good.
And I know some MAGA folks are saying, Thomas Massey's not that type of people. Bull. Chip Roy and I were chiefs of staff together and good friends. That he also gets a lot of grief. These are the type of people, though, that we want that can really transform what's taking place there in Washington, D.C. So there are a whole lot of people we'd like to see retire, to be honest.
Yeah. True.
But there are going to be a lot of open seats. So we will go take a look at how that's developing and try to talk to people who are thinking about it if we can, just to figure out what they're like before they decide to run when we really can't talk to them at all. And so we're gonna be taking a look at that. There are a lot of tough decisions, but we are going to find key seats that we can get involved in and see what difference we might be able to make.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And you, the money generated from the Conservative Caucus donations, is it all kind of grassroots kind of movement, donations, or how does that come in? Can people help? Is I guess what I'm trying to get to on that. How can they help you guys?
Yeah, the number one thing is to go to our website, theconservativecaucus.org. We have a donate button right there in the top right. Very simple to do. If you leave a comment if you want it to be part of any independent expenditures we might do. Okay. Glad to know that. But we have a very large base of hundreds of thousands of members who we solicit to let them know that what we're trying to do. And we're going to be going to those people as we did. I mean, we were the net was an $8 million expenditure last year. In direct mail, in television, radio, online, automated calls. We did the whole gambit. and we'll do that again.
Yeah.
So we ask our donors to come in to give an extra gift to help us through that. But if people want to get involved, they just need to go to theconservativecaucus.org.
Wow. Jim, do you mind coming back on the show at some point here? Are you okay with talking to the dumb Jim and me? Or I mean, as long as because as this goes on and as things develop and as sessions come back, and there it is. Thank you for putting that up there, theconservativecaucus.org. As this proceeds and as the craziness continues from the left, we certainly trust you and your opinion and your knowledge and your experience on all things political here, and would love to just kind of have you back on as time goes on periodically here if you want, or anytime you feel like you want to kind of review all of this, because I feel better after talking to you. And I'll say that in this, because from an outsider's point of view and literally outsider's point of view, it doesn't matter where you look. There's going to be 4,000 stories on a different political, landscape that happens that day and how it's generated and who puts it out. I mean, I think there was a good one on when Trump announced the tariffs. There was a video of CNN's coverage. Right next to it was a video of, Fox or Newsmax or somebody's coverage. And CNN had this like really orange filter on. I mean, it looked like Orange Man Bad, right? And their words under it, Trump presents sweeping tariffs and all that. And so it all depends on what you're looking at. And you're going to see different stories and all that. But you kind of bring it all back down to earth and make me feel a little bit more like there's hope here, despite us always continuing to trip on ourselves when we have power. The Republicans, there's a lot of hope and a lot of good things and a lot of good people in Congress that are fighting for us. That is the case, right? I mean, we can hear about all these people. Let me ask, and maybe you don't want to say. I'll ask you if you don't feel comfortable saying it. Who on the Republican side are we a little bit? We don't trust you. You're not MAGA. We don't want you on board. Is there any names you want to throw out there as far as that goes before we?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a few names that I'll say because we just did a massive mail piece to our people talking about it. Okay. People like John Cornyn and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, particularly Collins and Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell, of course. But these are people who don't believe in the Trump agenda. Now, Cornyn's knowing he's up for election next year, he's trying to make a pitch for sounding a bit MAGA, but he's never been reliable that way. Yeah. Right. And, this is a real problem that we need to change. And by the way, I don't just want people who will support the Trump agenda. They need to be doing that, or we're not going to support them this time around. That's the agenda that's on the table. Yeah, I also need people who are there for the principles of what Donald Trump's talked about, for true Republican principles, and willing to fight for them in the long run. So those people that I mentioned, they don't fit that bill at all. Correct. And I've got, I definitely have a lot of people both in the Senate and the House who trouble me. Yeah. But, we'll take the path at the moment of persuasion with many of them. Yes. And then we'll take a look at what needs to go away and who we might have to fight against for whatever reason, whether it's fighting against them publicly because they're not supporting legislation that needs to pass, or whether we look at going against them in a primary or something. Yeah. Correct. What we want are for many of these people to just retire, leave the seat open, let new blood come in. That's a big thing that we need.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you will not be endorsing Representative Crockett, is what I'm hearing.
No, I will definitely not.
Good, because I'd have to question some.
No, I don't say this too often, but I mean, she's a racist who hates white people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. 100%. And it's really sad to watch this because there are a whole bunch of black folks over on the Democrat side who are not that way.
Correct.
They just dislike Republicans.
Right.
Yeah.
But and Al Green's an interesting example, because when I was working for Thomas, the condo complex that he stays in when he's in DC, I also stayed in at the time, and I would run into him at the door, and he and I were very cordial with one another.
Yes.
He was very nice to me personally. I'm disgusted by what he did, but
Of course.
but so that's a different thing than a Jasmine Crockett thing, and he would be upset with me for saying it because he supports her. But we need to change this attitude. We're Americans.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
And
See,
we
that's a
need
good
to
point.
assert what America is about. And don't give me the 1619 Project bull crap.
I
That's a
know.
lie.
Mhm.
And but also don't lie that we had our negatives. We did. But this Constitution was set up as a time bomb against slavery to blow it up, because every one of them knew it had to go away eventually. They just were unwilling to get it done at the moment.
Yeah.
But it also set into place the kinds of liberties that humans can enjoy and thrive within. And we need to stand for that legacy.
Right. Yep. And a Crockett, and it will not Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar.
They're
these are
horrible,
the people.
horrible people.
Yeah.
This is the face of the Democrat Party, and people need to remember that this is who they are now, and they've allowed it to become that way. Hence the 21% approval rating. For the
and
Democrats
they're immature, and the 80-20, the whole thing with the men and women competing against women in their sports, the transgender our children, the mutilating our children, but they still stand on that principle, even though that's one of the reasons they fell, and now they're fighting to get these terrible humans in El Salvador back. That is sick. I can't. I'll never understand that one. So
you're a constitutionalist. Let me ask this, and it's everything that we think we know, but and I know I'll let you go, but now 4,000 questions, so I'll just keep you another minute if you don't mind.
Sure.
The activist judges in general, and Trump's his legal way to ignore them. Technically, he can, right? I mean, there's no legal precedent set for him to listen to these judges, yet they're going to keep putting these injunctions on, which are absolutely, unconstitutional to begin with. But it plays nice in the left media, right? I mean, this is all the big show. Boasberg has no control over Trump's executive orders and or his ability to remove criminals from our nation. I'm right about that, right? There's no
in most of the cases. Listen, what we do want to do is preserve the rule of law, and we want through the court system, because the tables will be turned sometime in the future. We want the same privilege. Right. If it's done the right way, and you've got a questionable issue, then you do want to allow that to get adjudicated in the court. And by the way, Donald Trump's been very patient. He's trying to say, we'll work this out in the courts. I'm not trying to overrun anything. That said, here's what's much different. I've looked at many of these cases, particularly the top lines of them. I haven't been able to dig into all of them. There were like 100 out there or something. Yeah. But many of these cases don't have a clear plaintiff. And even among the nebulous plaintiff, there doesn't always seem to be standing. And I'm not a legal expert. I'm just telling you my opinion. I talk to legal experts that are friends who are saying the same things in certain cases. But that is a huge problem. I don't. So in those cases where that is obvious and evident, and where the constitutional authority for the president is unambiguous, I would ignore them if I were president on the principle, right? So, and the Boasberg stuff seems to fit that, especially now that we get a sense that this is a judge shop, because
it is,
because he might have gotten one of these cases, but historically, it is statistically impossible for him to get assigned so many Trump cases.
Correct.
That was on purpose. It's supposed to be a random effort. Right. So they're not even that circuit itself is not doing its own job. But here's the other issue. And this is one thing amongst my sometimes disagreements with Newt Gingrich. This is one of them that he's right on top of. Congress needs to step in, not in impeachments. Listen, you're not going to
never
through the impeachment process, right? Unless you see something very, very real. Why would you do that when it's very simple to do this? It is the Congress has the authority to set up and or in this case, once set up, tear down
Mhm.
court jurisdictions.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The
correct.
only court created by the Constitution is the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And that is it. Every other court was created by Congress.
Mhm.
And the language in there is that Congress may set up courts from time to time as
Mhm.
it sees necessary. What does from time to time mean?
Yeah,
It means
correct.
at this time we needed it, but it also
Mhm.
might mean at this other time we didn't. Well,
Yes.
I can tell you this, that needs to absolutely be looked at. And
Mhm.
Gingrich, to his credit, has been talking about this for decades now.
Yes, correct.
At least almost 3 decades, certainly 2 decades after he came out of the speakership.
Mhm.
And he said, you can just get rid of, when the Ninth Circuit was really bad, the mostly California West Coast Circuit, which by the way is pretty good now. Donald Trump,
I know, isn't it
it's real
bizarre?
weird. But for 2 decades, it was the worst court that we had in the country.
That's
And they could have abolished it easily. It's within Congress' purview to do this. This gets back to our basic problem, which is Republicans in Congress. When they have control, they do not take decisive action,
Mhm.
and they often act in a cowardly manner. And it's mostly the leadership and a plurality of members that are driving that agenda. That needs to change. We need to, as Americans, look and reform our Congress.
Mhm.
But as in terms of these particular cases, to answer your question again more directly, there are many of these cases that is so obvious Donald Trump can ignore them that he should. But I do applaud him for recognizing that we had certain injunctions that stopped bad crap in the Biden administration.
Yes.
And he recognizes it can come around and haunt you in the future if you don't do it the right way. So I appreciate his restraint. Congress should be stepping up to the plate. There should have already been a bill on the floor eliminating every district court in the country.
They keep talking about it.
They keep talking about it, but just do it.
Get rid of the district courts.
Yep. They
Just
keep
do it.
talking about it, but yet here we go. So
Mhm. Yep. What? Last thing, and then we'll let you go. All right.
Sure. You call me on a good day, I have time.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate it. You are taking a lot of time, and and if you do got to go, just say I'm out. Sure. How this works here. Trump's cabinet. Yes.
I'm very positive about the cabinet. I've got
Pam
there's
Bondi.
a couple weaker spots.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Frankly, after the signal thing, Mike Waltz is one of those. But I also see a lot of strengths in him that I'm very positive about.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is actually one of the better cabinets that I've seen in my lifetime.
I agree. I'd have to agree.
And they are all qualified. Maybe the least qualified, and I still think they're definitely qualified. The two least qualified might be Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth.
Yes,
in
correct.
terms of what you typically see.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also set this qualification standard so high that only the elite deep staters could get in there.
That's right.
I think they're both very qualified.
Yeah.
So this is an excellent cabinet, but one of the best things about it is carrying out the Trump agenda, and they are doing it in a constitutional way. Now, some weaknesses of what's going on, even though I have high regard for Kash Patel, and I'm very, very grateful for him. I do not think Pam Bondi's moved quickly enough on aggressively going after some of the problems that could be litigated immediately.
Yes.
And I'm very concerned about that. And I think she needs to get off the ball. There are some prosecutions that are so obvious to start. She might as well start throwing them out. Impanel the grand jury, take a week to run through the evidence and get the indictment out.
Yep.
She's not doing that, and that's bothering me a lot. Kash, though, is doing a good job. He actually is reforming the FBI. We're seeing some bad apples being kicked out, and but I do think that there's some arrests. It seems to me, at least on this side of it, that he could make. But I still have confidence in him. So that's the other weakness in what's going on. But other than some of those things, I'm relatively very pleased by this cabinet, and Donald Trump has made some very good choices, in my opinion. And it's to his credit he was trying to be far too kind in his approach in his first administration as it relates to this matter. And he got aggressive this time from a knowledge base and a wisdom base that he's built from 4 years before. So kudos to him. It's very encouraging.
He learned quite a bit about loyalty and about the deep state in his first term. And
by
we
the
all
way,
did.
Let's not forget the best of them all, and that's Elon Musk.
I know.
And
I know.
I think that, and it's not a cabinet position, obviously,
Right.
but let's just keep in mind how significant that is. And to Elon Musk's credit, there are even some on our side of it who sometimes get a little bit questionable on Elon, and they did over the H-1B thing, for example.
Yes.
And I thought, oh gosh, okay, you can disagree, but please stop beating the guy down.
Right.
He has been a hero. This guy has literally sacrificed probably tens of millions or more, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars in his effort to save this country. The man has sacrificed a lot for the good of this country. He believes in America, even though he's a native South African.
Correct.
He believes in America in a way that a lot of probably better than any Democrat right now, it seems to me. I'm very thankful. We should applaud all that he's doing. And Donald Trump, I think, is quite honest when he's saying how much he appreciates Elon Musk and how much he would like to have him stay around. But Donald Trump's a serious businessman too, and he understands how difficult a challenge this is for Elon, and how
he's going to, and eventually he would have to step down. Eventually he would. I mean, the natural path of it is, I'm going to find all this fraud. Now it's up to the department secretaries. You take care of it from this point.
Because that's the point. He's not fired anybody.
Nope.
And he's not cut anything.
Nope.
He's just found this this should be done. This should be done. It's up to other people to do it.
By the way, he'll be able to put all that knowledge into very capable hands with my friend Russ Vogt running OMB. I've known Russ Vogt since I first came to Capitol Hill. The guy does not back down. He was working for Heritage Action and when I first came, but this guy is capable. He understands the system. He doesn't get himself caught up into political wranglings. He just focuses on the task at hand, and he's going to put that into capable hands. And then the team that Elon's built will be able to continue Doge's efforts when Elon's not as much into it day to day. So I'm very encouraged by this. It's a great first step. We just need Congress to get brains.
That.
I think so. Brains. That's a good one too. I don't know if anybody can donate some of theirs on your site, but at any rate, go help if you can. Jim, this has been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure for us, and we're so happy that you decided to come on. Please do come back. We would love to have you. We've got your contact
information. We get closer to the midterms and stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You can come back way before that. There's going to be so much more to talk about. Again, as we talk, I've got more and more questions, and certainly do trust and respect your opinion for sure. You're the guy who knows. Jim, thank you again.
I want to say for the record, for the purposes of this program, I do not believe I'm the smarter Jim. I'm going to leave that to you to adjudicate. I'm not coming out like that.
No. Our viewers know.
It's done. It's done. There's no question about it. If we get a poll, my wife might be my only one.
And that's questionable. That's on the fence. Again,
that's a mild bit of stuck up there, by the way. Just a mild bit.
Just a mild bit. Jim, thank you so much.
Full team by the time we talk next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe you will.
You're coming down to my house and we do a cookout.
And go Buckeyes, by the way, in case anybody cares. But
I hate the Buckeyes. I love you, man, but I hate the Buckeyes.
I know. I'm sorry.
I hate the Buckeyes with everything in me.
It's just tough when you're, a lot of people.
The only Buckeye I like is Bobby Knight.
Yeah. Well, see, you're welcome.
Thank you for the loaner.
That's right. Jim, this has been great. A lot of fun. Thank you. We'll be in touch. You be in touch as well. Please stay. Do stay in touch. Come back when you can. And we'll talk soon. God bless you. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Oh man, I'll tell you, a lot of fun. What a good guy. Just
very smart.
Absolute, very
smart.
So I was wrong. I wasn't wrong, right? Smart, Jim.
Oh, I was never. That was never in doubt.
I know. I just didn't know how to differentiate the two.
But thanks to Aiken.
No, the Jim from Indiana. No, the Jim that went to IU. No, the Jim that it would have been hard to differentiate it. Thank you.
See, Aiken.
No, there. Go Bucks. Sorry, I had to put that up there. I meant to do that while he was here.
Aiken said it best. Thank you
I
for just being
know.
smart, Jim.
We played no comments during that thing, did we? Except, we were terrible at that.
Yeah.
I apologize. And y'all joined in to hear it and on your Friday and took your time to listen to us 3 times this week. Are you insane? Thank you for doing it, by the way. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Who are these 2 guys? Did you see any of the comments on X from Buckeye? Yeah, Jim probably didn't. Jim was busy last night doing network stuff. So I appreciate that while I was doing social media stuff. In case anybody cares, the behind the scenes, that's always going to happen that way.
Thanks.
That's always going to happen that way. God, listen, Monday, those then social media, those of you on X, those of you that know. If you know these 3 people and their X names are Texas Patriot, Al Abadi, and Encrypted Lens. If you know those 3, and if you aren't looking, you don't know them, look them up. You probably are following at least Texas Patriot, I would say, out of the 3. They're going to be joining us live Monday. Folks, we are talking about the deep state. Jim and I had the pleasure of having about an hour and a half phone conversation with all of 3 of them yesterday. And the stuff they know. I remember Al Abadi was an intelligence officer. These are folks, I'm telling you, they're going to be here. They know more about the deep state. And it's not just speculation or conspiracy theory.
Right.
These are factual. They put it out there on their X pages. They're going to be here Monday to talk to us about all of that. So we're going to talk about, Jim, I don't even know where to begin, but the, military complex, how deep the state goes, and we're talking beyond just our deep state in our nation, but in the government deep state, how far it goes, capabilities they have to track you, to watch you, to know what you're talking about. We're going to talk about Pam Bondi. We're going to talk about so much. It's going to be incredible. It'll be a very, very interesting show. We look very forward to it, and we can't wait for them to come on. So remember that Monday. And then we got a top 5. After all that nonsense, we got a top 5 on Monday, which is, Jim, top 5 male actresses who nailed their role. Female actresses. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then Wednesday's top 5 transgender actresses.
I guess I know a couple. Maybe. I don't know if I can go up with 5 though.
No, Monday,
off the top
5 female actresses who nailed their role. I'm certain we can find it. Let's put some comments up here. Oh, good. I love hearing the real stuff on that. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's gonna blow you away.
Interesting.
It will blow you away.
Folks, it's So
yeah, we got 2 really, really solid interviews next week. First, Monday is with those 3, and then Wednesday we got Ann Vandersteel. If you don't follow her on X as well, you do it. We have her on as well. So, and then we got that all sounds amazing. Expose the deep state. Exposing it is the key. This is the important part. We're going to talk about the Butler assassination, how that all comes into play, what BlackRock did over in Ukraine.
Go a little bit more of a explanation that we've already know some of it, like the Ukraine war is a laundering scheme. We always felt it, we always knew it, but they can put a little bit more insight into it and say why this war has not stopped.
Yeah,
we know that.
It's true, and why it hasn't stopped.
But by the way,
amazing.
everybody out there, I know all of you know this. So if some idiot asks you, see, President Trump didn't give tariffs to Russia.
Yep.
We have sanctions against them.
Have them look up the definition of sanctions and then compare it to tariffs and then tell me
just
what
like
you
Iran.
think.
We didn't give them tariffs either because they have sanctions.
There were actual reporters who asked this question. It is just absolutely the journalism we know is dog shit, but this has been beyond. This is just pure incompetence and laziness.
They get schooled all the time. So nothing they can do. And if you don't, if you want to really see somebody that's out of her league, watch the Caitlin Collins interview with Scott Bessent.
Yep. I don't even know how. I don't know who she said to get her role.
You could just see him,
some dude or some.
You just see his reactions. He wants to laugh out loud at her.
I know.
But it's like, I got to be more respectful than that.
It's
But
why
yeah,
and yet they continue to have them on.
because they think they got them.
They think they got them.
They get them. And these
And it's
guys
the only
are
reason
not.
people watch them is because they're on. That's the only reason they're getting any viewership whatsoever. Jim, we're going to get out of here today. It's a Friday. You guys all have an amazing, amazing, amazing weekend. Thank you so much for joining us for our third show of the week. Really best podcast audience out there, bar none. That's
And
for sure.
maybe by the time we talk Monday, the Reds would have scored a run.
Yeah, 3 straight games since 1960. I was going to ask you if they're ever going to score another
29 innings.
I mean, they're
innings.
They're even using torpedo bats. I mean, like,
one is.
I've
this is embarrassing. It's humiliating, and I'm pissed off at this point.
Well, the Indians
you can
suck
have
so far
Tito
too,
bat.
Oh my God, you're blaming it on Tito. Unbelievable.
No, actually, I'm blaming it on the hitting coach because I talked to you about it when Chris
You did.
Valaika, he couldn't hit when he played.
I know,
but he can teach
people.
Teaching.
Well, he's made history now.
Anyway,
you know.
Yeah. Anyway,
the Reds may score a run before Monday. We'll see.
1-0, 3 straight games.
3 straight games.
The
First
pitching
time
staff is solid, folks.
Pitching staff is dead nuts. That's a Tito managed team. That's what that's what the Indians inherited. That's been their role. Don't spend money and just get these pitchers out there. Who cares about hitting? But you guys got both, so I'm just shocked. I'm literally just shocked at that. But you have a great weekend too. M's dad, Buckeye, Truthful Troll, Aiken, Tarna. Thank you all very much for joining and commenting. We do appreciate all of you.
Buckeye, that's for sure. Thanks for pointing out that Jim was the smart Jim. Thank you.
I know. Thank you for that. That was great.
Appreciate that.
Follow us at 2 Guys 1 Coup on X, please. Like, follow, and share on Rumble. You could see us on the Patriots Prayer Network on Rumble. Please like, follow, and share those as well. And please tell everybody about Monday. You're not going to want to miss our Deep State special.
Yeah.
These guys are going to blow the doors open on so much. It's unbelievable.
I will have to bug out half the way.
You will.
But,
but you may come back. Who knows? I mean, but anyways, they'll be here. Jim will be here for the first half of the show. He'll have to bug out for a little bit, may be able to come back depending on how long it goes, but he'll be here anyways. And that's it. Jim, anything else to say or add?
No, we're good.
Guys, thank you again for everything and for your continued support. We love you all, honestly. Jim, you're the best, buddy.
Yep.
We'll talk soon. We've got stuff to do, you and I together. So I'll give you a call and we'll talk to you all on Monday. Bye, Jimmy.